Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to create this advanced and reusable folded poster effect widget for Elementor using a free Elementor add-on. The amazing thing is that it works the same as the native Elementor widgets. For example, you can easily drag and drop this widget into your Elementor page, and it will convert any normal image into a folded poster paper-like image in no time. Furthermore, you can easily change the image and other properties of this widget from the right side of the Elementor editor. Now without any further ado, let's get started. To create the same widget shown in the video intro, you will be required to install two plugins. The first one is Unlimited Elements, and the second one is Elementor. To install the required plugins, first, go to the WordPress dashboard. Then hover over the Plugins tab, and then click on Add New. Now just type Unlimited Elements in the plugin search field. Here you will get a plugin with the same name by Unlimited Elements. Simply install and activate this plugin. Similarly, install and activate the Elementor plugin too. To create the same Elementor widget, scroll down to the bottom of the WordPress dashboard. Then hover over the Unlimited Elements tab, and click on the Widgets option. Now here by default, you will get hundreds of free and pro widgets. You can install any widget you want, but for now, we will create a new widget from scratch using the Widget Creator feature of this plugin. Now let's first create a new category for our widget. To do so, just click on this plus button, then type the category name, and then click on this button. To add a new widget, simply navigate to the newly created category, then click on the Add Widget button. Next, enter the widget title, name, and description. Finally, click on this button. Here you can see that our newly created widget has appeared, but it is not currently functional because we have not added any code to it. To create the folded poster effect Elementor widget, we will be requiring a code block of HTML as well as a few blocks of CSS. By the way, if you don't know anything about HTML or CSS, then don't worry, you can always download the necessary code from the video description. Now to edit the widget, just click on these three dots, and then click on the Edit in New tab option. Now here in the General tab, you can edit the widget title, name, description, icon, etc. Let me set an icon for our widget. To set an icon, just click on this button to insert a relevant icon for your widget. Next, switch to the HTML tab. Then delete the default text from this field, and then paste the copied HTML code of the widget. Next, switch to the CSS tab, and paste the copied CSS code of the widget. Before we proceed further, let's add our newly created Elementor widget to our Elementor page. To do so, first, update the changes. Next, open the same page with the Elementor editor where you want to add this poster effect widget. By the way, this poster widget is compatible with both the default Elementor column and inner section layout and the experimental Flexbox container layout. For the time being, we will be using the Elementor Flexbox container layout, so I'll add a container with 3 child containers. If you want to use this widget in the default layout, place it within the inner section. Next, search for the poster effects widget using the widget search field. Once the same widget appears, simply drag and drop it into an Elementor container or inner section. Now that you can see, our widget has been successfully added, but currently, you will not be able to change the image or any other setting because our widget does not have any setting options. To add the settings to our newly created widget, we need to create an attribute for every single setting. To create the required attribute, just switch to the Attributes tab. Now here, you can create different setting sections for this Elementor poster effect widget. Here by default, you will see a section called General. You can rename it using this pencil icon. You can also use this button to create an entirely new setting section, but for the time being, we don't need to do so. The default setting section is sufficient. To create an attribute, select the setting section and click on this button. Next, select the attribute type from this drop-down. For now, let's select the text field because we will be creating a dynamic setting for alt attribute of our poster image. After that, enter the attribute title, name, default value, and placeholder text. If you don't understand this attribute creation part, then don't worry, just do it the same way I'm doing it. By the way, if you want to learn more about the Unlimited Elements plugin, you can always watch the publisher's YouTube videos. To make settings work, you need to add the attribute shortcode of your newly created attribute into your widget code blocks. Now let's see how we can add the attribute shortcode to our widget code blocks, and we will also see how many attributes we are required to create apart from this alt attribute. To do so, let me first switch to the HTML tab. Once you create an attribute, then the attribute shortcode for the same attribute will appear here automatically. As you can see, we have created an attribute for this alt property of the image, and the same attribute shortcode has appeared here. To add the attribute code, simply select the section of the code, and then click on the relevant attribute code from the right side. To change the image, we need to create an image attribute, but first, we need to upload and assign a default image that will be displayed by default when our widget is added. To do so, go to the Assets tab. Then click this button to create a folder for your default image. Next, click on the newly created folder to open it. Now upload a default image using this button. After that, click this button to set the newly created folder as an asset folder for your widget. Next, switch to the Attribute tab and create the image attribute as mine. Once you will create the image attribute, then switch to the HTML tab and add the attribute shortcode as earlier. Let's add a dynamic ID to our widget. Why do we need to add a dynamic ID to our widget? Because if we don't add a dynamic ID to our widget, then our widget will not be reusable. In other words, if you add the poster effect widget more than once on the same page, and if you change settings in any poster effect widget copy, then those same settings will get applied to every single copy of the poster effect widget added on the page. For example, if you change the image in one poster effect widget copy, the same image will appear in all the remaining poster effect widget copies because the CSS class is the same. To solve this problem, we need to add this default dynamic ID shortcode to our widget's HTML and CSS so that the widget ID automatically changes with every single copy. To add the dynamic ID, follow along with me. Next, let's see how many attributes we will need to create for the CSS code blocks. In the CSS, we are going to create a dynamic setting for the image box shadow and background color property. To do so, first, remove both properties from here because we will insert these properties using this class. Now copy this CSS class selector from here and switch to the Attribute tab. While the Settings section is selected, click on this button. Next, select the attribute type from this dropdown. For now, let's select the box shadow because we will be creating a dynamic setting for our widget's box shadow. After that, enter the attribute title, name, and the target CSS class selector where you want to insert this box shadow property. Finally, click here to add this attribute. Similarly, create the attribute for the background color property. A few fields in this background color attribute differ significantly from the box shadow attribute. Here in this field, you need to enter the default color value for the background color property. In this field, enter the same CSS selector class as earlier. And here, enter the background property name, followed by a colon, and then enter this default shortcode for this color value. Finally, click here to add this attribute. Next, update the changes. Let's go back to the Elementor editor page where we have added our widget. Now reload the page. Let's add this poster effect widget to the remaining 2 containers. You can see that our poster effect widget is working perfectly fine. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to get new video updates, and make sure to check out the end screen video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.